Good morning, everyone. It's Sunday morning, February 26th, and here is our guest, Sterling, who we love. Every 2 weeks, we get to have him on the show.
Well, thanks.
Good
Wonderful
morning,
to be
Sterling.
here. A wonderful morning, and everybody survived all the big storms, at least in
Yes,
California. So,
and usually whenever I talk to you, it's like, it's cold, no problems. We've been having Armageddon storms up here. This time, you were saying that, yeah, it was pretty significant down there.
yeah, 75-mile-an-hour winds and above, and no snow flurries for where we are, but all up in the mountains around us. I think you had some too. So,
Yeah, right next, the hill right next to me that was on fire when I moved in.
yeah,
It got a big old chunk of snow on it. I remember 1976. My daughter was a year old, and we had snow on the ground in Hayward, California.
yeah. Several years ago, it snowed in Malibu. So it can happen. Yeah. I think, I don't know if that was 8, 10 years ago now. I looked through the weather report, but I remember it did.
Wow. All right, my friend. Well, we got wonderful questions, and thank you to your lovely wife, Linda, and your team.
Absolutely.
I like to
Absolutely.
call them the team.
Yeah.
And to Dan.
Right. Big shout out to Daniel, for doing a wonderful job.
He did great. He listened, he had COVID. He said it was okay for me to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he went on that drug and it really helped. You know, that drug they're giving, even though you've been boosted and everything, there's a drug now when you get COVID. Well, his only lasted a few days and he was feeling good right away. But doggone it, he went back to teach and he said now he's got this nasty cold.
Wow. Yeah. I remember they were originally prescribing what they call monoclonal antibodies, but I think there's a new drug out. I'm not sure if it uses the same technology.
It starts with a P.
Yeah, when you get it during the early stages of COVID, if you take it, really helps reduce the symptoms. Yeah.
Yeah, he felt, but when he comes off of it, he started noticing he's a little more tired.
Wow. Okay. Well, all the best to him. We'll put him in our prayers. Absolutely. Big shout out to Dan. Yeah.
But he's a go-getter, that guy. I'm telling you right now. Hey, listen, you know, he's a teacher and he loves his art. He paints. He's a good painter. And you guys can look him up at danielfinaldi.com. And he was sitting there painting and he noticed a real dark cloud coming in, black. And the wind's picking up. Well, apparently it was an E2 or 3 tornado that jumped the school where he was at and destroyed some other places. And he was sitting right there painting away.
Wow. Reminds me of the violinist, the musicians on the deck of the Titanic that played on the way down. Yeah. So
I was watching a biography about the Titanic and people who actually lived through it and gave their testimony. They played that music till the very end.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, it's a historical record. Yeah.
That's something. Okay. So, and then real quick, the radio guy that was going to ask for help from the Cardassian or Kardashian, one of the big ships.
Yeah, the other ship that was in the area.
Yeah. It was the closest one. Well, he was sending families were writing other families. So he's doing that, right? And then this other ship were sending him some message about icebergs. He got mad at him and told him, he told him off, something weird. He was rude. And so the radio guy at the other ship got mad, shut it down. So when they were saying SOS, they never got the message till the next morning.
I saw a different version of that story, but I'm not sure. The other version was that the radio man for the other ship had finished his job for the night and then turned in early or something and then shut off communications. But I didn't hear about the anger. It could be.
They said the guy was rude. He was and he was angry. And by the way, they both died. The radio guys, they died, but they didn't get out in time.
Yeah. It's a terrible story all the way around. Yeah.
Actually, no, I'm sorry. They both went in the water. The rude guy died, but the other guy lived and was able to tell the story. He got in the water, but he got pulled out by another boat real fast. So, okay. So here we go. Enough about this and that. Okay. Do you see Russian invasion of Ukraine ending before the summer?
See, what I do see is by mid-year, by summer, I see a lot of good negotiations breaking out between Russia, Ukraine, US, NATO. And so I think that's the start of some very good things. So I'm not sure I see the winding down the conflict, but like strong negotiations starting, which is a good sign. Yeah.
That's a good sign. Very good sign. May I just bring up something that kind of a hit I got? We'll talk about it later. And maybe you got the same hit. I'm feeling China is talking like helping them, but they're not.
Well, China's on the fence right now.
Yeah.
So they're on the fence because they're trying to assess all their options. They don't want to break off economic ties with the West. And they're also really looking at the Ukraine conflict to see how it's going to go. How's NATO going to respond? How's the US going to respond? Because that's absolutely part of their calculation as to whether they should help, Russia and get further involved. And yeah, it's all part of the calculation I get. Yeah.
And is it part of the calculation with the Taiwan in the back of their mind or no?
100%.
Okay.
100%. I've always gotten China is going to wait and see how things go with Ukraine. And then based on that, they go, do we go forward or do we hang back?
Yeah. I feel like they're talking the talk, but they're not walking the walk. That's what I got.
Absolutely.
Okay. Will European Union fall apart in the next 5 years?
No. Okay. But I do see, and I've always still see it, UK rejoining European Union. So I think they're going to do a backtrack and they're eventually going to recombine. Yeah.
Right. In Indiana, our NIPSCO, which is gas electric bills, have doubled and tripled. Do you see any investigation on these bill hikes?
Was that Indiana? Indiana. Yeah, but it looks like there's like congressional oversight or something happening with a number of utilities, including that one in Indiana. And it looks like there's some sort of a bill that comes forward that like show us your books and that looks like some sort of a rebate coming. So overall, it looks like an investigation and then a rebate coming to help people. So the answer to the question for me overall is by year end, it looks like it all gets resolved in a good way, like it's on a good track. Yeah.
Yeah, because these poor people, they can't afford it.
Yeah.
Do you see parts of the US becoming uninhabitable in the future because of drought and global warming?
Yes, but not for like 4 decades, 4 or 5 decades here. Yeah, it's going to happen in the Gulf regions and a lot of coastal regions and parts of central US, if that's what we're talking about. Looks like drought's going to be a huge factor. Yeah, about 4 decades. Yeah.
Will Jamie Raskin be okay?
100%. 100%. And I read on this, I talked about it a couple of months ago, actually even before, remember he announced the cancer. I said, somebody in Congress is coming forward with a major health scare.
I remember that. Yeah.
So then a couple of days later, a week later, it was Jamie Raskin said, I've got cancer. But then my team said, no, he's going to make it through it. He'll pull through. They caught it early enough. So, yeah.
Thank you. Well, do you notice a lot of people that might lose a child, like he lost a son, lots of times somebody will get hit with something. It's almost like it affects your system to where if you could get it, you'll get it right away.
100%. That extra stress on the body always is challenging for your system. And we're all born with some form of cancer, right? Those cells are in our body, but they don't always get activated. I was thinking about Chris, I forget his name, Superman's wife.
Yes.
She took care of him the whole time. I'm drawing a blank on his name. It's terrible. More coffee. But anyway, but then she got cancer soon after he passed.
Right.
And which is, I think, all the stress on the system and that is just, unfortunate.
And
I know she was around smoking environments, but yeah.
Yeah. She wasn't a smoker, but she did work the nightclubs. She was
Christopher Reeves, right?
Christopher Reeves. And he had Dana was her name, I think.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Dana Reeves. Yeah. They're together. I saw them together. And
absolutely. Yeah.
Really good. Okay. Barry and Honey Sherman were found dead in their billion-dollar home in an upscale neighborhood in Toronto, Ontario, Canada in December 2017. He owned a multi-million-dollar drug manufacturing business. They were found posed, seated by their indoor pool. What happened to them, and will their killer be found?
Can you say their last name again?
Sherman. I don't recall hearing about this. I might have, but Barry and Honey Sherman.
This comes across to me almost immediately as like a drug syndicate, like other drug competitors trying to take them out. So there's something here that's not like a break-in, it's just, a robbery. This is like I'm sorry to say, it looks like a professional kind of a hit from somebody that was competitive or something here. So yeah, not good.
Will they eventually find the killers or killer?
I pick up that the authorities already know who they are, but it's like because of the size. Well, and it's like, how far out do you go to kind of try to take down a syndicate or a professional organization? Yeah, terrible. Well, thanks whoever asked the question. I hope that helps. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to look that up after we talk. I want to check it out. I wondered if when you give private readings, you hold back information that your guides say the client cannot handle, or if your guides simply don't divulge that information to you.
Well, it's more the latter for me. My team will only bring forth information that's helpful for the person, whether it's something they really need to hear, something may be uncomfortable, but they need to hear it to kind of start a different life direction. So I never see information coming through that's like, oh, this is very hurtful, don't tell them. No, it's always like, allow them to take this with a spoonful of sugar, so to speak, tell them exactly what's going on to help them. So it's never a problem. It's always meant to move you forward. Yeah. So no holding back. No.
If I do group, you don't do group, but if I do group readings, like I used to mediumship readings, I'll literally have some people I read that I could tell may have been sexually molested by somebody in the family. And they'll tell me like keep it low. So what I say is, your uncle, I see your uncle hurt you and he's very sorry. You don't say he sexually molested you. One time I saw a girl's uncle sitting by the lake, and I said his name even, I remember. She was sobbing, and I said I saw that he had molested her, and he was very, very sorry. And she said out loud, he molested me. And then his head was turned looking at the water, and I felt a boom in the back of his head, and he was gone. He was on the other side. She said someone had walked up to the car and shot through the window and hit him in the head.
Wow.
So anyway, but yeah, they'll say, they'll tell me not to say it out loud. Oh, Sterling, are you able to look and give your interpretation of crop circles? I think you've talked about this before.
Yeah, the answer is yes, and I have in the past, and they're like detailed universal puzzles, detailed psychic puzzles. But yeah, I have, yeah. And many people on Earth can do that right now. So
wow. Elon Musk seems to love China over the United States. He seems to have no loyalty to any country, especially the United States. Elon is now making Tesla cars in China. Will there be a backlash against Elon? What do you see for him in the next couple of years?
The backlash has already started, but he's very money motivated, so he's always looking at ways to leverage capital. And so wherever the capital comes from, whether it's China or some other area of the world, so the backlash has already started, but he's trying to keep his head above water financially. So
so he goes where the money is.
That's exactly where he's going. Yeah.
Hello, Linda and Sterling. Love watching both of you on Sundays. Increasing tensions between Taiwan and China have led to a U.S. military buildup in Taiwan. Is China actually thinking of invading Taiwan? Will our military buildup deter them? You kind of
touched on that earlier in the show here, but the military buildup is not deterring them. No, it's the success or failure in Ukraine.
Okay.
So that's what they're looking at. When NATO and the whole world steps up to defend Ukraine, that's where China's going to say, well, not really a good bet for us to go after Taiwan because they're going to have the wrath of the world. Yeah. So anyway, the U.S. buildup's not really deterring them. It's other factors. Yeah.
Okay. Will McCarthy face repercussions for gifting January 6 tapes to liar Tucker Carlson?
Yeah, I think it's already started. But what's interesting, it's going to backfire in a number of ways because I see a lot of other broadcast networks getting access to the footage.
Yes, go ahead.
So it's like, it's like, belly up to the bar, so to speak. Hey, everybody take the tapes. There's thousands, 40,000, I don't know how many hours, there's thousands of hours of footage.
Yes.
But I've always seen that McCarthy did that because he was first off trying to gain good favor with Fox viewers. So say, look, I'm one of you kind of a thing, and support me in the next election. But the other thing was he was giving kind of back end information to Rupert Murdoch in the Dominion case. So there's something there they're going to try to conjure up in that footage, whether it's participants or what was said or what 45 said. But there's an element of trying to bolster the Fox case against defending against Dominion. So there's a couple of things going on there.
Yeah, because I felt like that was part of the agreement to make him speaker, and I felt Donald Trump was in on it.
Oh, 100%.
Donald Trump is happy that those tapes are been given to.
That there's a laundry list, or let's call it a punch list of things that that McCarthy agreed to before he got the position. That's just one of them. Yeah.
So you feel the repercussion is that all the other news media who are already biting at the bit and saying, demanding that they get it too, will be able to get it. And I felt, and tell me what you think, I felt whatever they think they're going to put out in the open, that the Department of Justice or somebody may nip something in the butt because they're revealing too much security information.
Yeah, but I see that like you can't put the horse back in the barn, so to speak. So that's going to be things to come. So legislation to say, okay, we're not going to allow this to happen again.
Okay.
Check. This is
right, and then they can change everything the way they were doing things.
Exactly. Yeah.
What is Tucker Carlson going to do with the insurrection videos? Is this going to hurt Biden and the Democrats?
No, I don't see it have any effect on Biden and the Democrats at all. It's like a ping pong ball ship bouncing off the Queen Mary or something. That no effect whatsoever. No.
Okay. Here's a question related to quantum physics and psychic abilities. Is there a correlation? For example, my father could see my exact actions in real time from thousands of miles away, from Michigan to California, without anyone telling him. Similarly, I could do the same of remote viewing with my own son from Michigan to where he was in Washington State, not intentionally. Is it the DNA, the physical splitting of atoms that attract no matter the distance to each other, or more of a spiritual connection that keeps us physically connected? That's cool.
So there's two concepts answers to that question. The first is that astral travel, remote viewing, that's a different spiritual experience that works energetically in the universe. There is a quantum physics side to that, but not to get too technical, it has to do with plasma. And plasma is like the fourth state of matter. You have, solid, liquid, gas, plasma. If you go out in the universe, everything is plasma. But what's interesting about that, it provides instantaneous connection among electrons. Not like too tech. So that's how ETs can communicate instantaneously across the universe using plasma, which is a fourth state of matter. So anyway, there's two different elements in that question there, but it's true that they always wonder why ETs could communicate, instantaneously across galaxies. It's because the effects of plasma, but not to be confused what this person's asking about remote viewing and astral travel, which is spiritual.
Okay, thank you.
That feels like a Jeopardy question.
I know, but that was a very good answer. How will the U.S.-China chip war end?
Well, in a good way. Remember, there was the CHIPS Act of 2022 that the Biden administration put through that's putting, billions of dollars of funding. So there's going to be what they call a crossover, or there's going to be a reduction in the reliance on chips from Taiwan and other areas of the world, increased manufacturing now in the U.S. So actually what I've seen is over a 5-year period here, the U.S. gets in a much better position in terms of regulating and having control over chip manufacturing here and not relying on Taiwan, which is going to be at risk. By the way, chips for the U.S. come in like 5 or 6 different areas, including Japan and other parts of the world. So anyway, but good things over a 5-year period here due to the CHIPS Act.
Wow, that's great. Okay, and the U.S. is going to get more independent too, as far as making their own stuff.
Yeah, and that's what I think that's what the CHIPS Act of 2022 was all about. Yeah, but I've always seen that the U.S. is not going to be in a huge high risk position with losing some access to Taiwan, which is where a lot of the chips are coming from right now. Yeah.
Any negative result for the grand jury investigation in Georgia because the foreperson is giving TV interviews?
I get none whatsoever.
I do too. And
and
listen,
the reason, by the way, behind that is that Georgia's kind of unique. So when I asked my team about that, I said, like, team, I asked them, are you sure there's like no, they go, none whatsoever, no ramifications, because in Georgia, there's a separate grand jury that's going to convene that actually looks at the charges for 45.
yeah.
So the grand jury that this woman was involved in was, I think, what they call a recommending grand jury. So it's a whole different process in Georgia. So people are thinking for some reason it works the way other states do, and it's different. So, yeah.
Do you think she was just kind of looking for attention? She's young, and it just feels like she kind of liked the attention. But even the judge on the case said her legal right was to talk if she wanted. She didn't give out information she shouldn't give.
Right. Yeah, she didn't cross any lines, but I do feel that she liked the attention, fortunately, unfortunately, so.
Okay, will Kushner's $2 billion from MBS be investigated in 2023?
Yeah, by the end of the year. Yeah. It's all going to come out as part of the January 6th review. And because there's a strong correlation there as to why Kushner, for entertainment purposes only, was in fact in Saudi Arabia on January 6th.
Okay.
So it's all, there's some related events here.
Wow. Did alien species have body health issues as we do in human form on Earth?
They do, but advanced medical treatments, using laser and sonic technology, so they know how to heal much faster. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Wow. Now I don't know how to pronounce this. I think this is the first time I've seen this. Phyllodes tumor of the breast are very hard to diagnose. Did I say that right?
How do you spell that?
Phyllodes.
Okay.
Phyllodes tumor of the breast are very hard to diagnose, even with biopsies, and they grow faster than other tumors. Then they can spread to the lungs and brain. When will they have a better diagnostic tool to prevent spread of these aggressive tumors?
And so the question was, won't they have a better way of detecting them and treating them? Yeah. There's good imaging technology coming up using sonic technology, ultrasound, and laser technology combined with artificial intelligence. They'll be much better with diagnostics. So I'm just being told that the AI side of it allows you to look at, billions of pieces of information across millions of people, and then compare what the imaging is seeing. And so is that in danger or not? The treating aspect of it, actually, for me, gets swept up in a good way with all the CRISPR things going on, because it's a form of cancer, or can be, but CRISPR, the lowest hanging fruit is they're going to take care of cancer with a lot of the gene editing up front here. So It looks like it'll benefit from all of that. It's a decade for us to get all that done, but yeah, it looks like it's going to be okay.
Good. Do we need to be concerned with foreign interests such as Russia, China, and Saudi Arabia coming in, buying up U.S. oil producing companies? China's setting up a fake Fox police stations in areas of the U.S. and buying farmland. I didn't know they were doing that. The farmland, but not police stations. Mm-hmm. They also driving our 18-wheeler trucks throughout the U.S. and delivering our food and supplies, gas, and other harmful chemicals.
So the question is, should the U.S. government be concerned about China, Saudi Arabia, buying up farmland and oil refineries? And it looks like the U.S. or the federal government already is. They're going to start watching that much more carefully. Regarding oil production, we're going to be transitioning over a number of years here away from oil, dependence on oil. So, but there is some concern there with buying up of land. I think I saw that in water rights a couple of weeks ago, because some water rights or land was being bought up. Oh, that was by Wall Street firms, are reminding me. So the government's looking at this. There is a concern. Yeah.
Okay. Why is the EPA telling Ohioans that the area is safe when people are experiencing so many symptoms?
Well, that's in an effort to push off any liability.
Yep.
So, for entertainment purposes only, but I think everybody just kind of Google what happened around 9/11 with the EPA when that whole event happened. And they walked the streets of New York, right, and said, it's all fine. Everything's fine.
I remember that.
Decades later, ask Jon Stewart, everything's not fine. Or, so we have a serious condition there in that area that's going to go on for a lot of years.
Right.
And I don't want to scare anybody, but I want everybody to kind of prepare or make the right kind of decisions, because it's not going away in a month.
Right. Exactly. And also, I see big lawsuits and I see people getting money, but I'm almost feeling a ghost town, like people are going to move away.
Erin Brockovich is already involved.
She's already announcing, you guys don't listen to what they say. This is harmful. So she's talking to the scientists.
Yeah, I have no alignment to Erin Brockovich, but I would tell everybody just, listen to a few things she has to say, because she's making sense.
Yes. Okay, Trump has hired hired a $1 billion lawyer. I don't know his name, sorry. Will this change the future of Trump's outcome? Will he still serve justice? I think this is
and I think that's that lawyer is like Drew Finling, I think is his name.
Right.
He's represented a lot of rap artists, the group Migos and Cardi B and whatnot. But no, I don't see him having any success with getting 45 off. So this could be, I never wish it on anybody per se, but it could be one of his big career failures. I mean, he's had a good run as a lawyer, if you want,
right.
But there's actually too much coming up here out of Georgia that he will not be able to get him off.
He's not going to. And the other thing is, Trump paid, his people that gave donation paid $600,000 for a survey to see if the voting was actually stolen. And they came back and said, no, there's nothing here. And that's when they're talking about Fox News knew that it wasn't stolen, and they still went on air and lied. But he paid $600,000 and so that stuff doesn't bother. He's just looking for someone to tell him what he wants. And if you don't, he just walks away.
Yeah.
Will Alex Murdaugh be found guilty for murder? I
see it. I see him being found guilty. And what's interesting, when I looked at this with my team, it's because of the incriminating things that he says. So where some of the evidence might put people on the fence is some of the things he says that will incriminate him. So yeah, but that's the alignment there. But my team says he's going to get convicted.
I saw it. I don't watch the trial at all. I don't look at it, but I looked at it.
Do I? Yeah.
Yeah, he's going down. My son was in Iraq in a gun battle. I was in California asleep, but I saw everything. Bullets flying by me. I could see him hiding behind the headstones. This was in real time. I called out to him. After the battle, he was safe. When I woke up, I was screaming and out of breath. What was that? Did I have a remote view?
100%. That's a remote viewing.
She was with him, yeah.
Yeah, and people that aren't skilled in remote viewing can even remote view if it's a very close loved one situation. That resonance will happen. Yeah, that's absolutely remote viewing. Yeah,
that is amazing. Okay, some jobs are giving cost of living raises for horrible inflation that's been happening, so people are just scraping by right now. Will prices on things ever come down, or is it just going to be a new norm for people trying to live?
Well, we've read on this before, but never saw the U.S., for example, going into a hard recession, be a soft landing for the economy, a couple of cycles. I do pick up that by the end of this year, things are going to start to feel much better. So as we get out on the end of this year into the beginning of next year, so there's a bit of a recovery, there's a rebound, but it's kind of a soft landing for the economy. It won't be a hard landing. So it's coming, but I understand it's very painful for a lot of people. But it's going to get better, but very quickly.
I'm almost feeling like people will just refuse to buy things that are too expensive.
Well, you're right. And then that's the supply demand situation, right? So then if the supply gets too high, the prices come down, the demand goes up. It's like, yeah. And so that supply demand factor will come in. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Are the Chinese spy balloons a prelude that is to usher in UFO craft sightings and aliens.
No relationship whatsoever. Yeah, those are all surveillance balloons from adversaries.
But also, though, there was a couple of them. They're not talking about it, by the way. The government's but I heard it might be certain organizations that are weather related and stuff like that. So,
well, most of the ones I was looking at with my team were surveillance related.
Okay.
So they weren't hobby balloons, you know.
No. Well, they claimed that we sent them to China too, but they forgot to mention that the balloon said "Happy Birthday" and "Get well soon."
I remember that. You're right.
Okay, what is coming up for next week?
Couple things, you know, I see a lot more information coming out on that Ohio train accident, which is help people make better decisions about this is bigger than we thought. We kind of touched on this show. A lot more information coming out regarding Fox and McCarthy. And it looks like for me, we're going to start to see the broadcast networks. We were touching on it, but getting access to the video, the other broadcast networks.
Okay.
I think you're going to start to see NBC, CNN, a lot of other MSNBC saying, hey, you know, send them over here.
Is that going to kind of hurt the whole Tucker thing?
It does. It does. And I saw one other thing here, which is always difficult to see, but so I want people to be careful. Some other terrorist activity, explosion in the Middle East regarding like a synagogue. And I don't see a lot of loss of life, which is always, I'm glad I don't see that. So maybe it happens when the synagogue is not inhabited. It happens at night or something.
Yeah.
But there's some sort of an explosion, Middle East synagogue coming up this week. So I felt the need to say something. Yeah.
I really had a hit the other day. I was telling my people about this horrific stuff going on in the United States and this anger towards the Jewish people. And I felt it turn. I know that sounds crazy, but I feel the Jewish people aren't going to put up with it anymore. So I don't know what's going to happen or what group may come back and fight back. Something's going to happen, and they're not going to take it anymore.
That's what I heard. That could be related to this incident, yeah. But unfortunately, there's a lot of marginalized groups around the world that are all coming under scrutiny, right? Or a lot of anger, right? So every community you can think of, right? Almost every facet of religion and LGBTQ, and it's just, you know, it's a time right now with a lot of chaos. So,
but there are more good people than bad people, I can tell you.
There are. And
there's more of the good than there are the bad. Those bad people just have big mouths.
Exactly. Yep.
Did you get a hit? Not that we should, but because it's whatever should be. I knew that President Carter was going to pass this year, but were you feeling anything about him?
Well, I mean, he's on the verge. I mean, he's in hospice care, so I'm not sure exactly what question you're asking, but yeah.
Oh, I mean, I just felt maybe this next week he'll be transferring. He's not afraid at all. But
I mean, it's very soon. I don't know if it's
I feel light all around him, by the way.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, he's really been a blessing to humanity and done a lot of wonderful things. And yeah, it's interesting. There's a story in the news about him going back to his military career. I think it was in Canada. I think I can't remember where they ran into the reactor. Did you see that story?
Yeah, tell the folks about it.
Really I don't know. I remember all the details, but there's a reactor. I think it was a Canadian reactor that went bad. Right. And so they figured out they had only allowed people 90 seconds in the reactor to disassemble it. So he, I think, ran the crew and even went in himself for 90 seconds. They actually built
and then they switched.
They built a facsimile of the reactor like in a park, so that they could practice all the 90-second moves, like this guy takes off that bolt, then takes off that bolt, this woman does that, and they practiced it all. And so he took his 90 seconds in the reactor, but ran that whole team. Interesting story I hadn't heard before. Very about
interesting.
Him. So,
and here's the other thing: the man lived to be almost 100.
Yeah,
and he was in the middle. They said that they tested him afterwards, and I guess he had enough radioactive material. But he lived.
Yeah. So a wonderful human being. Yeah. And I think he was the major founder of Habitat for Humanity.
Yes.
To be sure, was a wonderful organization. Shout out to them. He's a strong
man too. If you think about it, he was out there building houses.
He and his wife, was it Rosalind? They're out there with planes and hammers and everything up until recently. So
just until recent, I think he fell and hurt his head, and then
he. Yeah.
Do you have any message your guides want to share?
Yeah, simple message this week, but it's more like make positive, loving waves in your life and allow them to kind of spread around your loved ones and kind of surf those waves. So kind of a humorous way of putting it, make positive, loving waves in your life and then surf those waves. So
awesome.
Humor. Yeah.
Thank you so much, my friend.
Always a pleasure.
So buckle down. This atmospheric stuff is going cray, especially winds.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But we're all going to be fine. So,
and a little message how people can get a hold of you.
Oh, absolutely. We have a YouTube channel, Sterling Psychic Medium, where you can find all the videos and the shows. And for those who need to reach me, sterlingpsychicmedium.com. Look for the book a session tab. Yep.
All right.
All right.
Guys, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, everybody.